Roll Tide, everybody. A little pop-up show. Thank you for hanging out with us. And we got some big news. Bama with a couple of wins in the transfer portal on a college football Saturday. So we're going to talk about that right here on Cover Crimson. Thanks for being with us. Like, subscribe, thumbs up, brought to you by mybookie.ag. Let's get you updated right after this start. All right, Roll Tide, everybody, with Clint Lamb. I'm Mick Gillispie, brought to you by mybookie.ag. Some big news today, Clint. Some good news for Alabama. Breaking, they add not one but two players out of the portal. And one that we kind of knew was going to happen, and then another guy that they were fighting for, but an offensive lineman and a wide receiver. So good news for Alabama.
Yeah, I love the fit of both guys. I think they both address really important needs. You lose several receivers to the transfer portal. You end up bringing in Isaiah Horton from Miami. That was a guy who was almost instantly connected to Alabama or at least made the announcement that he was going to be entering. And then you got Cam Dewberry, who I think is a very good player, got a lot of SEC experience, got some starts, I think 8 in his career, was a former freshman All-American. And you're expected to lose Tyler Booker at left guard, your starting left guard. You could potentially lose Jaden Robert, your starting right guard, even though it's also possible that he could be coming back. But I think getting a guy who has that SEC experience and really can come in and be kind of I honestly think he could end up winning the starting job. I wouldn't be shocked at all. I mean, Geno Vandermark's probably going to be coming back. He's got that versatility. If you do lose Jaden Roberts, it's possible that Geno Vandermark plays right guard. Cam Dewberry plays left guard, but it's also possible that those two are battling it out with a guy like maybe Michael Carroll and a couple of other guys at left guard if Roberts does choose to come back. So I like the fact that they've kind of targeted some trench guys, but like I said, I also love Isaiah Horton. I think he's a really good player, was really blossoming this year for Miami. He was kind of their number 4 receiver, but if you were to ask any Miami fan, they would kind of view him as the number 2. And really they were viewing him for the future as their number 1. He's got a lot of desirable traits. I was really impressed with that addition.
Well, a couple things on him. Bama recruited him, and it was back when Doug Marrone was the offensive line coach, and Holman Wiggins. So it's been a while, but he picked Miami over Texas A&M, Georgia, a bunch of schools, Florida, Tennessee, Penn State. He was a highly touted prospect out of Oakland High School, Murfreesboro, Tennessee, 6'3", 205 pounds. And you mentioned 4 guys leave, Kendrick Law, Kobe Prentice being 2 of those guys, Emmanuel Henderson, and then Caleb Odom. So, 4 guys that actually saw time, right? 2 guys that we saw a lot. And as Alabama looks for wide receivers, you would figure that Horton's someone that immediately is going to play for this team. And you talked about Dewberry being the same way. Horton, the reason he left, he just wanted to be closer to home, right?
Yeah, and I mean, as far as Isaiah Horton, man, and we've already talked about him a little bit on this show. We were kind of anticipating that commitment could be coming at some point. Like I said, the second that he announced his intentions to enter the transfer portal, he was immediately connected to Alabama. He fits kind of what you're looking for, or what Kalen DeBoer's looking for, as far as being a guy. I mean, 95% of his snaps have come on the outside. Like, he very rarely is going to line up in the slot. I mean, he's 6'4", 205 pounds, kind of a big body guy. So really, that makes sense. This season, Jeremy Bernard played roughly about 50% of his snaps in the slot. Ryan Williams was probably sitting up there, close to 16 or 17%. So, what I like about the flexibility of a guy like Jeremy Bernard is you can he probably will be your primary slot. If I had to guess, I would say Isaiah Horton's probably going to be kind of your big bodied X. Ron Williams is going to be kind of that move Z receiver that you try to protect a little bit, as far as you don't want to play him on the line of scrimmage too often. And then you can do some different things with Jeremy Bernard there in the slot as well. But then when you start bringing in some of these depth players, maybe like a Cole Adams, who they expect to be a big part of the offense next year when he can get healthy and get back, when he's playing in the slot, you can play Jeremy Bernard outside. So it's a lot of flexibility. You'll have Jalen Hill, who, he actually played quite a bit of slot in high school. Seems more like an outside guy in this Kalen DeBoer offense. He can provide some of those things downfield, the contested catches, do all that stuff. So, I like the fact that he's going to be in the mix here. I think Derek Meadows, not saying he's going to be a massive part of the plans in 2025. I mean, he's kind of a raw prospect, but the tools are there to work with. And I think the more or faster that he can get developed, I think eventually he can start providing another big-bodied option, maybe alongside an Isaiah Horton. But I really like the combination of skill sets that they have. And what people don't understand about Horton, kind of what makes him, in my opinion, he wins a little bit less downfield because he hadn't really seen a ton of targets downfield.
Right.
He can, I mean, like I said, he's playing outside. He's got the body. He can do the contested catch, go up and win 50-50 balls. But he wins a lot over the middle of the field. And that's very Rome Odunze to me. Like Odunze, like when you watched him, he was a bigger body guy. By far, his biggest strength as a player was winning those contested catch situations. Very impressive. But when you go look at kind of the numbers, he got used over the middle of the field quite a bit for a guy his size. He can take that beating. Isaiah Horton's very much the same way. Balanced option. I really like the combination of skill sets that Alabama's got in that room. And, with Kalen DeBoer's offense and the fact that we're expecting them to throw the football a lot more in 2025, I think that kind of bodes well as far as all these guys being able to get involved and having pretty good seasons.
Well, good one. We kept hearing that this one was in the bag, and then I was surprised that we had a couple guys commit before him because it felt like this one was going to be done last week, but good to have him on board. And then, you talked a little bit about Cam Dewberry. Bama's done well with the Texas A&M transfers. LT Overton was one of their best players this year. Former 4-star prospect out of Humble, Texas, 6'4", 320. So he's a big, strong guy, but you would expect that from an offensive lineman. And we know that we saw him against Alabama. He started against Alabama, had some injury issues, but this is a guy who picked Texas A&M over Oklahoma and Texas, Ohio State, LSU. I mean, a ton of teams. So, another one of these big time guys, and he comes to Alabama, and you mentioned it. Booker's gone, and do you think that that Brailsford goes to the NFL, or do you think he sticks? Because I kind of feel like he says he's coming back, right? But I guess that's not unless he goes to the NFL.
Yeah, no, I mean, he has announced his intention to come back in 2025, so I wouldn't expect him to go anywhere. And that is such a critical piece to Alabama's offensive line. I just don't think people realize when you have a center who's able to do the things that he's able to do, first of all, consistent snaps. Let's applaud that because we've seen what it looks like when you aren't getting consistent snaps, but also the fact that he's a bulldog in there. He's just got this fierceness, this nastiness about him that you love from that position. He's very scrappy. So he can handle kind of the grittiness of the SEC as far as when you're doing, sometimes the lack of size shows up.
Right.
But he's got a wrestling background. He's a little bit shorter, so he's got natural leverage. Very strong guy for a player his size. And so he can hold up as far as the SEC, but then also his ability to pull as a center. That opens up so much for you offensively. Having not only the ability to pull as a center, but doing all those things at once, handling the communication side of things with your offensive line, snapping the football and making sure that your snaps are in a good location, but also getting out there on the move and having the ability to kind of pull multiple guys within your offense. I mean, or on a particular play, it's very, it provides a lot of flexibility for your offense. And that's kind of what helped make Washington's offense under Kalen DeBoer in 2023 very dynamic and very effective, but also, I think that really helped Alabama in certain situations. And if they can continue to kind of work towards doing what Kalen DeBoer was comfortable with at Washington and really wants to do and kind of run his playbook and stuff, I really think things are going to start to take off for Alabama. And Parker Brailsford is going to be a massive part of that. Cam Dewberry is, he's a big guy. Like you look at him and you would think, okay, this is more of the Eric Wolford type of offensive lineman, the big mauler and stuff. But one thing is these bigger body guys that they've brought in, the Washington offensive linemen too, they're big, but they can move better than you would expect them to be able to. And so, they have Tyler Booker this year, He did drop some weight. Don't know exactly what he was at. I want to say probably, high 330s, maybe 340.
Right.
Might have gotten down to 335, but you saw him get out on the move, and he did some really good things in this Kalen DeBoer offense too. So as long as you got the movement ability, they want to get you as big as you can possibly get without sacrificing anything from an athleticism standpoint. And I think they're going to get that with Cam Dewberry. Like I said, he shouldn't be overwhelmed. He's played in the SEC for the last 3 years. He's had multiple he's played between somewhere between 260 and 460 snaps in each of the 3 seasons that he's played. Had a handful of starts in a couple of seasons, so definitely a really good get for Alabama.
All right, so he joins Kelby Collins, the defensive line transfer from Florida, who's an Alabama native. Cameron Calhoun transferred from Utah, cornerback. You got, and then we talked about Isaiah Horton and now Cam Dewberry. So Bama's gotten 4 commitments. There's still some other targets that are out there. Casey, Concepcion, the wide receiver from NC State. I wonder if Horton coming, Alabama had plenty of spots. So, I mean, I don't think it would make him not want to do it. Nikhil Hall Green, the linebacker from Colorado. And then also Corey Gordon, who's a safety from Baylor, are the guys that at the last check for me anyway, that I remember that Alabama was trying to get. They were after a running back, and I think he committed somewhere else, maybe to Kentucky, or at least maybe they were talking to him, right? And then with Dewberry, would he go to like SMU and maybe Missouri, and then he ends up at Alabama. So it's interesting. I mean, this transfer portal thing is far from over.
Yeah, I mean, and right here before the dead period, Alabama getting both Isaiah Horton and Cam Dewberry, 2 really important offensive additions on top of what they already have with Cameron Calhoun at corner and Kelby Collins there at the bandit position. Just what you have noticed from this staff is they're not desperate. And I think when you look at some of these other programs or teams, it's like they got a commitment popping off every 5 minutes, and everybody's like, man, what's Kalen DeBoer and company doing? To me, that I'm not saying they're not getting better, but I think it's coming from a place of desperation. I don't think Alabama from a numbers standpoint is desperate. I think they really like some of the pieces that they already have. It's like, why do you go pursue all these transfer portal players if you're kind of a 9-3 team on the brink of the college football playoff? You really didn't get to run your offense, but you see the guys who can fit within it that's already on the roster. It's just they're not coming from a place of weakness, in my opinion. It's coming from a place of confidence and strength. And so they've identified certain players. You notice not only do they get them on campus really quickly, like when they enter the transfer portal, but they press them to commit. And when they've done that with guys, they've gotten commitments from them. I mean, I'm not saying they wouldn't have taken Luke Haas. I think they liked him a lot. I think he could have provided Alabama's offense quite a bit. But did they push for him to sign? No, they didn't. It's like you go do your thing. If we would love to have you, if you don't want to be a part of it, that's fine. Same thing with Casey Concepcion. Everybody, wanted Alabama to get him. I loved it. I mean, I really think that he would have been a good fit. He could have provided something a little bit different as far as the underneath stuff, while also being able to win vertically. But it's just Kalen DeBoer and them. You can tell they didn't push for a commitment, and they didn't. Some of these guys are coming in and they're not even getting offered. So I think when Alabama locks in on the guy and they want him, they've generally done a pretty good job of closing and getting him.
Yep. Well, look, good day for Alabama adding to the roster. Been a really interesting week when you look back to us thinking that Jalen Mbakwe was going to transfer, then him coming back, then Greg Byrne talking about NIL, and then, winning some battles in the transfer portal. Make sure you guys check us out tomorrow. We'll talk about the college football playoff. I'll give you my opinions. I think you already know how I feel, but they were just validated with the action. But I don't want to comment until all of the hay's in the barn, Clint. So we can do that tomorrow. But this was just a quick show to talk about the transfer portal, obviously adding 2 really good players to the Crimson Tide's roster. Also, guys, look, 300% deposit bonus for the casino and 50 free spins when using the promo code NEXTROUND. That's 50% off the sign-up bonus for the sports book as well. Take advantage of it, mybookie.ag, and use the promo code NEXTROUND for those great deals. I hope you're all having a great holiday. And like I said, I'm not taking off for the holidays. you'll see me. In between holiday fun, we'll be here talking to you. Like, subscribe, thumbs up. Clint, what do you got going on over at covercrimson.com?
Right now, we've been talking about some of these college football playoff games. We've been, keeping track of the transfer portal. Got obviously with these 2 commitments today, got the roster tracker completely updated. I mean, you're talking about a position by position graphic or a look where it's got how many they've got. It's got, classification, all those things. I shared that to Twitter a couple of days ago, but obviously a lot's happened since then. It's changed quite a bit. So get on over to covercrimson.com. Join in, great conversations. Also, you can check that out. And once things do settle down, as far as like the dead period, we get past this first round of the college football playoff games, I'm going to be kind of breaking down a lot of these players a lot more in depth. I've been watching a ton of film on them as far as fits and all those different things. You're going to know exactly what Alabama's getting in all these guys, and you're going to have a pretty good idea. I don't know exactly what the coaching staff is thinking on some of this stuff, but if you really watch them, you can kind of get into their heads a little bit. And so as far as potential roles and kind of how the coaching staff might envision using them, we're going to be not only talking about that a little bit on this show. So if you haven't already, like and subscribe, but also over at covercrimson.com, I'm going to be diving in pretty deep, one by one. And once everything is settled, people are going to have a pretty good feel for where things stand with Alabama's transfer portal class.
Awesome. Well, Roll Tide, guys. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. All right, nicely done.